Good evening. We're going to talk about the word irony just a little bit tonight. And I am by no shape of the imagination an expert on, I wasn't an expert in English and language arts when I was in school, but my wife is. So I got a little help with this word to make sure I had it right. But irony is defined as the expression of one's meaning by using language that normally signifies the opposite, typically for a humorous or emphatic effect. Or it could be a state of affairs or an event that seems deliberately contrary to what one expects and is often amusing as a result. In simpler terms, words are used in a way that their intended meaning is different from the actual meaning of the words, or a situation that ends up being completely different than anticipated. Here are a few real-world examples of irony. A fire station burns down, or a police station gets robbed. A pilot has a fear of heights. A teacher fails a test. Someone posts on Facebook complaining about how useless Facebook is. A person works hard for many years to save for retirement, and on his last day of work, he is given a lottery ticket worth millions. In the late 90s, I think it's in 1996, if my research is correct, the musical pop artist Alanis Morissette came out with a very popular song called Ironic. The opening lyrics of that song said an old man turned 98, he won the lottery, and then he died the next day. It also has some stuff in it like a death row a person gets pardoned from death row a couple minutes after he's actually put to death, and then being stuck in a traffic jam when you're already late. So I looked at this, and then I looked at some examples. Is there irony in the Bible? And there is. The first example in Mark 2, the Pharisees are asking the disciples why Jesus eats with tax collectors and sinners. In verse 17, and I like this reply, when Jesus heard it, he said to them, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. I came not to call the righteous, but the sinners." Basically, that's just most of the time, for most people, when we're well, we don't need a doctor. Another example in Mark 15, verses 17 through 19, and they clothed him in a purple cloak, and twisting together a crown of thorns, they put it on him. And they began to salute him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And they were striking his head with a reed and spitting on him and kneeling down in homage to him. But the irony was they didn't view him as a king whatsoever. And then there's this one. To me, the one I've never really quite thought of the way that I did until I read it this past week. I found this online, so I'll just be completely honest with you. I've stolen some of this, but I did find this online when I was looking to do this Devo. But the author of this devotional talked about this verse. It's from Matthew 27, a couple of verses, and said he had read it hundreds of times in his life. And the irony of this verse had not really struck him until recently. He was, I think, if I read it correctly, he was taking the Lord's Supper, and he was reading a verse while he was taking it. It was this verse, and it kind of hit him in a different way, and I'm no different. It really never sank into me like it has here either. But in Matthew 27, verses 40 through 43, and in this verse, Jesus is already on the cross, and people were walking by, and they were saying, "You who destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." So also the chief priests with the scribes and elders mocked him, saying, "He saved others, he cannot save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God, let God deliver him now if he desires him. For he said, I am the Son of God." And if you back up just a little bit, there's another irony that ties in with this. It's where Jesus is taking the place of Barabbas. Israel wanted Jesus to take the place of Barabbas and receive the punishment that Barabbas deserved, which sounds really familiar as Jesus taking the place of somebody. What was a spiteful injustice against Jesus was actually a ransom by Jesus, and every one of those people in the crowd there was actually figuratively Barabbas. He was about to take Barabbas's and every one of the places of those people in the crowd. He was going to take their place on the cross. So this example of Barabbas ties back into the verse from Matthew 27 that we just talked about, where they were mocking Jesus with their statement, "He saved others, yet he cannot save himself." Their mockery and the truth of their words that they were speaking went right over the top of their heads. They had refused to believe the things that Jesus had done, like resurrecting Lazarus, or the hundreds of eyewitnesses who had came to them testifying about him healing the lame, healing the blind, healing the demon-possessed, the deaf, and the list goes on, and yet they even refused to believe the things that they had seen with their own eyes that Jesus had done. And so goes their ironic statement, "He saved all these other people. If he was so powerful, why can't he save himself?" Well, here's the thing. He could have saved himself. Physically, he could have saved himself in a heartbeat. But he wasn't there to physically save himself. He was there to spiritually save others. All the Barabbases of the world, including Josh Winters, he was there to save spiritually by getting and staying on the cross. He could have called the 12 legions of angels who were just waiting on the word to unleash and save him. He could have saved himself, no doubt. Physically, he could have got down off that. He had the absolute power to do just that. However, to save himself meant that there would be no redemption for you, for me, and for anybody else who's ever existed. And that's the irony to all those who walk by the cross and mock Jesus, saying he saved himself. He saved others. Why can't he save himself? Jesus hung on that cross, not to save himself, but to save every one of them, to save me, and to save everyone of us who has ever existed. If you need to respond in any way, please come as we stand and sing.